Okay, let's open 2 Kings chapter 6 from verse 8 onwards. 2 Kings chapter 6 verse 8 till verse 19. Let us read. Now the king of Syria was making war against Israel, and he consulted with his servants, saying, My camp will be in such and such a place. And the man of God sent to the king of Israel, saying, Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are coming down there. Then the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was greatly troubled by this thing, and he called his servants and said to them, Will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, None, O my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet who is in Israel tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom. So he said, Go and see where he is, that I may send and get him. And it was told him, saying, Surely he is in Dothan. Therefore he sent horses and chariots and a great army there, and they came by night and surrounded the city. And when the servant of the man of God arose early and went out, there was an army surrounding the city with horses and chariots. And his servant said to him, Alas, my master, what shall we do? So he answered, Do not fear, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So when the Syrians came down to him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, Strike this people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness, according to the word of Elisha. Now Elisha said to them, This is not the way, nor is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. Until verse 19 we read. Second Kings, this chapter 6, is about how the born-again Christians need to live their spiritual life. It is explained in very detail. The 2 Kings chapter 6, as I read, in my heart, the one thing that really remained in my heart, the verse is verse 10. If you see verse 10, the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. So, our life itself is like a war, right? We meet difficulties, and these difficulties, after they get solved, another difficulty waits for us. And after these difficulties get solved, again another difficulty is waiting for us. So continuously this war just goes on. But when some difficulty or problem comes to you, that problem was solved very successfully, and it was solved without any problems, then no matter how many times we come, that just becomes a blessing. It does not become a curse, right? But if a difficulty comes to you and the difficulty is not solved and it remains in your heart, then because of that, it is so painful. We feel so saddened and we feel so painful. That's why we are living an insecure life. When, yes, difficulties do come, but if there is a way by which, we can make those darknesses to become bright, there's no problem, right? For example, if I have like 1 lakh debt, but I have 10 lakhs in my bank account, then that 1 lakh is not a problem. If I already have it in my bank account, then I just have to withdraw it and pay. But say I have 100 lakhs, But because I have 1 lakh debt, so I'm so much in pain and difficult and suffering. Then what is that? That is a person who is like a fool, right? That's a very foolish life. Yes, there are problems. Now, life, there are so many hundreds of problems that come to us. But to change the difficulty into blessing, if we have all the conditions, then there is no difficulty. In the land of Israel, there were so many wars. There were so many wars. But there were many times when we won the war. Why? Because Israel always had this prophet called Elisha. This Elisha, the prophet, the man of God, servant of God, whenever a difficulty came, they would go to the servant of God and they would say, at this time, the Syrians, they attacked us. They're going to attack us here. They're going to come in this way, like this, and they're going to try blocking us like this. But if you counteract like this, we can win. So whenever the Syrian army tries to invade, we know when they're going to invade and they're already ready beforehand. So their protection, their defense is not just once or twice. That difficulty comes to them, problems come to them. But those problems, they don't just get solved once or twice. Every day there are difficulties that come to me. If so, then more than that, our life needs to be happy, right? When a problem comes, when it does not get solved, then that person, they feel like my life is so miserable, so difficult, it's unhappy. That is how unhappiness is made. However, happiness does not mean that you have no difficulties, even though there are so many difficulties that come to us. But if there is a God who can solve that difficulty, and there is a servant of God in the land of Israel, but in this land of Israel, there is just one time that you need to stand in front of the king, right? Because there is a man of God, Elisha, so no matter what problems we have, it will be solved. So he came to her. Why are the unhappy? Even though we have the man of God who can solve all the problems in this land of Israel, why do they despise the servant of God? And why do they try hard to live their own life? That is why such people, they say that they live an unhappy life because they're unable to believe the prophet and they believe themselves. That's why it doesn't get solved. That's why when there is a war, it's for doing that kind of counterattack, not once or twice. We need to know exactly how the enemies are going to attack or from this position, and go there and be watchful. So this king of Syria, he was going crazy. Surely, this time, without anyone knowing, we had made that kind of strategy. But the enemies were saying the completely opposite thing. So the king became angry. What is happening among us? We all have a responsibility. There's some spy. How do those enemies know exactly when we will go out and they know exactly when we'll bring the numbers? So among that, what the borrower says is, what the servant says is, we don't have a spy amongst us, but there's a prophet called Elisha in Israel, and that man tells even the words that you speak in your bedroom to the king. What does it mean? We cannot fight with Israel. This is the meaning, right? No matter how much we fight, can we win against this man? So then the king needs to come to his senses. I should not fight this kind of war. I should go and attack another country. Something like this should happen, right? So this king also was thinking then I can just arrest this Elisha. So he sent an army to go and just catch Elisha. However, Elisha even knows that, right? So he even knows what's going to happen. That's why What do you think is the way for the king of Syria to actually win that fitness challenge or war? The servant of God many times told us that, I'm so sorry, but please have a little mercy on me. Please help me. So even this country called Syria, why don't you guide this country, Lord? If you did something like that, then even for the Syrian king, God would have helped, because God is not someone who helps only someone, he won't help the other people. He's not like that, no. However, the king of Syria, because he went crazy, he gave an order saying that go and catch Elisha. The problem is, in our life, what do we need? How are we able to make happiness? How in spiritual life can we be happy? Through the Bible, God exactly to us, He's showing us these things. In the land of Israel, there was only the servant of God, that's enough. Even in my life, there were many amazing things that happened. To counterattack that was not just once or twice that I was able to do it. A long time ago, if many difficulties came, I could not even solve it. But I could not solve it. That's why he joined into the mission school, right? So this thing called poverty, we cannot do anything about it. My father used to gamble all the time, so our family became so miserable. It's all because of my father. Kids from other houses, they have good fathers. That's why their fathers earn a lot of money, and what? They can buy them brand shoes, they can live however they wish, but we met the wrong father. That's why, we are suffering. I should not blame my father anymore. I have to go and earn money, they think. And trying to earn money, I went to prison, right? That's why in my life, there were just problems after problems. Nothing was getting solved. My problem was, from when, my problems began to get solved. It didn't start getting solved because I received salvation. Even though I received salvation, if I didn't believe, nothing gets solved. Yes, I can go to heaven. But just because I can go to heaven doesn't mean everything else is turning out well. Even though I received salvation, if I have a distrust towards a servant of God, then that does not get solved. However, in the year 2015, there was just one thing. The servant of God, everyone in your heart, you need to throw away the thought that it will not work out. God surely works in our lives. Because of that thought that it will not work, misery came to me. That thought that it will not work out in our heart, that made me unhappy. At that time, as I listened to the voice of the servant of God, God, won't He work? So I started to erase those thoughts that I cannot do from my heart. The problem is, all of you, if your lives are complicated, this is the reason. In your heart, that vocabulary, that word saying it will not, it's impossible. Then if you start to erase that with a rubber or an eraser, then from then on, impossible things happen in your life. From then on, your testimonies also will become like that. So after that, really amazing things started to happen. So whatever I tried to do, it would work out. Why? Because we didn't have anything impossible, right? So even in our hearts, the thoughts that this will not work out, it was already filled. So sometime back, actually this time also, from Central Africa, the missionary had prepared one youth camp. So to do the youth camp, I had to go to Central Africa. Do we have those pictures? Could you please show it? Yes. So this is the youth ministry. That tall man, he is a minister. Next to him, is the high school education minister. So when we were doing the youth camp, they were around 150 professors. So before doing the mind education, some dignitaries, they came to give a congratulatory message. So the education ministers, they came and they gave a congratulatory message. So I don't think there are many sitting there, right? Around 100 people only sitting there. After they give the congratulatory message, they should listen to the mind education and go, right? It's a very important time, but they just left and went. They're busy, so they went, both of them. So I came out to say bye to them, and I told him, Mr. Minister, I paid so much money for my flight ticket all the way from Korea to here. I just came to meet you. If you just go now, how is that okay? So what he said was, is that so? If so, then after you finish the camp, can you please come to the minister's office? I'll meet you there. So after that, after finishing the camp, we went to the minister's office. He is the youth minister, minister of the youth affairs. He is a minister of the youth affairs. To him, we gave a mind education. And this mind education, this person, he didn't listen. He was not really interested. He was just not listening. He's a youth minister, but I felt like, this work will not happen. So the next thing, I met the next person. He was the Minister of Higher Education. This Minister of Higher Education, he looks a little serious, right? And he looks like he wants to listen. He looks very interested. No, see, you can see it, right? So this person, he was listening so well. Now this person, there was a reason why he cannot help but to listen well. There's a reason why. What kind of a reason he had was, the president, when this person was a university vice chancellor, he was made into the minister for higher education so that he can lead the youngsters. So the president gave him one mission. He told him, you should be in charge of youth education because you're the higher education in charge. And the future of Central Africa, it is on these youngsters. So in the university, in the world of their heart or mind, what kind of a picture you draw, that will make our country happy and bright, or it will make our country miserable. So how much mindset you give to our youngsters is so important. They gave this kind of a homework. Most of the people were not really born again, and then in USA we did it again. So he was thinking like, how can our youngsters be educated so that our country's future will become bright? So he was worried about that. And on that day, he listened to the mind education for 1 hour. After he listened so carefully, and he started to tear up and cry. And what he said was, the reason why I've become the higher education minister is that the president made me the minister when I was just a vice chancellor of a university because he wanted me to fulfill this mission. Today I was able to find a solution for that mission. What do our young youth need this time? They need this mind education. So that's why he's so happy and he was so touched. So this person, he held my hand, and what he said was, tomorrow we have a inner circle meeting, a discussion with the other ministers and the president. I don't know if it'll work or not, but if possible, I will, really beg the president so that I'll want to make him meet you. If we meet the president, Don't say anything else. You just give him this mind education, okay? He asked us this favor. So this person, he called that youth minister whom I met already. And he called him and he spoke saying, tomorrow we have this inner circle meeting. Our president wanted this IYF, he has to meet this IYF representative who came from Korea. But if I say that all alone, that's not good. So you, if from beside me encourage and help and promote, then this Korean representative will be able to meet the president or any document, and they made this kind of a plan. So this person on the next day, he went into that inner circle meeting. After he went in there, he made a confirmation of an appointment for us with the president. So that youth minister called me, tomorrow we are going to come and meet the president. So if we meet the president, don't say anything else. He asked us only to preach the mind education. So I said, okay. So in order to prepare for the mind education specialist coming, the IYF, what kind of a organization it is? We prepared many documents to show the president. So this pastor and the pastor's wife, they speak good French. The missionary there. So after we made those documents, the president said make an official invitation letter to invite the founder, Pastor Oxo Park. So in Botswana, the president of Botswana, I had already received the invitation letter that they issued from the president's office for Pastor Park, and we translated that into French, and I said make this kind of an invitation letter for Pastor Park. But they said, Pastor, we cannot do that. Why they said that is because the president's palace need to make that kind of a letter. How can we make an invitation letter from the president's side? So I said, no, not like that. Just do what I say. Today you make it, okay? I said, okay. And they did it. So they didn't do it. Even the next day, I asked them, they didn't do it. And they said, Pastor, we cannot understand. I said, don't understand. Just listen to me and do it. But Pastor, that should be made in the president's office. If we make it, that is against protocol. Stop saying many things. Just do what I say. Just make it. I waited for 1 hour, but they still didn't make it. Both of them fell into darkness. The pastor and the wife, they fell into darkness. I said, just make it. And I said, should I make it? I'll just read it out to you and then you type it in French. 1 hour later, when I asked them, they still didn't make it. So I said, why you didn't make it? Just make it. They really couldn't understand. The Central African president, there's an invitation letter format. Just download it. And then in the name of that Botswana president or whatever, just fix the dates and just make it. So I begged them, and finally we made. That's why now they went into the president's palace, right? They went into the president's palace. So there is the youth minister and the higher education minister sitting. And he is the president of Central Africa. To him we gave this mind education. He listened so carefully because they have a lot of natural resources. They have a lot of gold, they have a lot of diamond, they have a lot of petroleum. But there's no reason for them to live as though they're poor. So the French-speaking region, because France a long time ago, they came and they colonized these Western African countries and then they were liberated later on. So France is a country that does not support But France is a country that also takes its due from other countries. So these kind of presidents, sometimes they say that, there's a problem with the president of France. Then the French president, it seems they involve and they change the president in this country. So this person wants to live well, but it was just not happening. That's why I said, Your Excellency, in Central Africa, you have so many resources. In Africa, actually, there are a lot of natural resources. There is no reason for you to be poor. But because we have resources, is our country developing? I said it's not so. No matter how much resources you have, if your mindset is not basically supporting, then there is not much difference. On the other hand, through the war, these countries lost all things. South Korea is a country like that. We lost all things. We have no natural resources. However, our country, all around the world, was able to develop at the highest rate is because of the mindset that a few main leaders had. In Central Africa, this mind education should be given. The beginning of mind education is from the founder of IVF, Pastor Oxupark. So from Zambia and from Benin, from Malawi, from Kenya. We had youngsters, some youth. I showed the photo of them who went to Africa. So the president, he said, among all these presidents who have met Pastor Park, only the Central Africa president is not there. So then he said, next year maybe I have to go as well. So I said, if you give us some land, we can build a big center over here so that all the Central African citizens, compulsorily they need to get mind education. Then surely they will change in the future. So then officially, if the president, Your Excellency, writes us a letter, then next year by 3 o'clock, next year by this time we'll bring our founder. Then President, you and our founder together can have some felicitation and it'll be good. What do you think, sir? He said, that'll be so great. Let's immediately invite this Pastor Oksu Park. And then he told the PA, go and quickly write the invitation letter. So I said, Your Excellency, there is no need for that. I already wrote the invitation letter and brought. I already brought it. That's why if you don't like something, you just change it. And if you like it, then right now, why don't you just sign it here? I gave him that invitation letter. He saw the invitation letter and he liked it so much. It is written so well. There's no need to fix anything in this. And then over there, he just signed on that letter. Why? In Africa, when I worked together, this person, after listening to the mind education, he must have felt so good, right? That is when we need to get the sign. But later on, that hot heart, it doesn't go for long. Everyone today, even after you listen to the word of God, you're always touched, no. But after 1 week passes by, nobody has this. Your memory power, it's only when your mood is good. So even though I told him to make the invitation letter, these people didn't listen to me. The president's office, they should write it. How can we write? That's illegal. However, the president himself is allowing, right? So I have to quickly pack. So this person, he wrote that invitation letter in that place itself. That's why in the month of March, Pastor Park, he went this time to Central Africa. He went to Central Africa. This is the inauguration ceremony of the Central Africa IVF Center. Groundbreaking ceremony. So quickly come and make this kind of a youth center for us and give mind education. So why is the same picture coming out again and again? So with pastor, this person, he heard the Leviticus chapter 4 gospel 4 times, the same thing. That's the first time during the groundbreaking ceremony. It's so hard, right? But there on site itself, pastor started to preach. Is there any AC or something? Nothing is there. But he kept talking about Leviticus chapter 4 for 1 hour. And on the next day, in the assembly, in the parliament, they gather all the MPs and everyone, and we did a mind education. So at that time also the president, he was sitting there, and pastor, he preached the mind education, and he listened to that gospel for 1.5 hours. And after that, the next day, this person was giving an interview. At the time, we asked him, Mr. President, are you righteous or sinner? He said, I'm righteous. I'm not a sinner, I'm righteous. That's why on the next day, this person, he was so touched. And he said that all the people who came from Korea, we are more than 30 actually. He invited all of us. And he said, I want to treat you to lunch. So at that time, pastor again, he preached the gospel. And after that, on the next day, pastor has to go to Kenya. At that time, he received a phone call from the president. He was about to start from the airport, but the Central Africa president made a phone call to him and he said, Pastor, please have a good journey. Pastor, please come often to this place, the Central Africa, and please preach the gospel, because we need people like you to preach the gospel. Please come often to our country and just preach the gospel, he said. He very sincerely asked for this. So now Central Africa is one of the poorest countries in the whole world, but we were treated the best over there. How thankful it was, right? But the problem is, so what I was trying to say is, in our hearts, God does not work. It's not just once or twice that we are disturbed. There are the other children and other people to play with. As long as Alicia is alive, no matter what kind of superpower it might be, they cannot come and attack or conquer Israel. But among the kings of Israel, there were some crazy kings who started to despise the servant of God. The kings who despised the servant of God, who did not listen to the servant of God Elisha, and who despised him or didn't trust him, they start to meet disasters and difficulties. But no matter what kind of difficulty comes, because in that country there is a prophet, the servant of God, when he says like this, like this, like this, you do, then he is able to solve all the problems. Everyone, even in our lives, it is not once or twice. It is not once or twice that, we have to counterattack. God, he will surely work. Don't listen to the voice that says he won't. From then onwards, always I had difficulties. And those difficulties, they were fierce difficulties. But no, it's not so. God surely, he will work. So let's just step one step forward. If I go there, then God will give me an opportunity really to change everything. Whenever difficulties came, it will not work. When the youth minister and the higher education minister came, why did I come over here? Mr. Minister, I came here to meet you. How can you just simply go like that, huh? I have to meet you. I paid all my flight ticket and I came all this way. So he said, I'll come to the minister's office. In that way, until these works happened, there were many problems, there were many, I'm just telling you all the good things, right? But difficulties were there. But each time in my heart, the one thing that, existed in my heart was there. What I insisted on, God, surely He helps. And in the future, God is going to open the ways. Let's just see one video. The video talks about when problems were there, when some crisis was there, how they were able to develop. They started to put the trucks of mud to cover and make the seawall. But the last 270 meters, when they wanted to make that seawall, there's a 4.5 tons of rocks, it just flowed away. So they finally brought this water ship.
우리가 최종 체제가 어렵기 때문에 25만 톤 이런 유조선을 고철로 뜯는 배를 사들여다가
We put water in the oil tanker big ship and made it to sink and sit in front of that gap. So within 1 hour, they filled it with more than 6,000 tons of water to make the ship sink, and then they finished that last part of the seawall. This is the Chongjuyong strategy for seawall construction. So it's a great history of changing the map of the world. It's a very wide land and they created the seawall there. So it is the different kind of thought that makes crisis turn into an opportunity. They say that the people who live thinking deeply can do 10 times, 100 times better than others. It's so touching, right, when you see that? Actually, Korea, for 36 years, when we were colonized by Japan, all things were taken away from our country. America, after they burst the nuclear bomb in Japan, after that we were liberated. After freedom came to our country, and we thought that peace will come with freedom. But very unhappily, sadly, we had the second civil war. We had the war between the North and South of Korea. So North became communist, South became democratic. Even now, our country, even though we are the South Korea, we always have a war, right? We're always fighting. If North Korea is good, then people can just go there and live, but nobody wants to go there. They want to come here and make another North Korea. But the problem is, this kind of like an ideological war keeps going on. Please show that picture. So at that time, through that war, we lost all things. If you see, because of the war, we lost all things. We felt like, oh, this kind of war should not be there, right? But the problem is, at that time, in the 1970s, it was like only around $70. 1960s, 50s. Korea was the poorest country in the world and the most hungriest country in the world. At those times, it was our wish to just eat one meal a day. So at that time, Central Africa was so shocked when they heard that. Still, they just eat one meal a day, in Central Africa. So at that time, our country was so poor and we were so hungry. But because our land was around 70% mountainous, we had very less agricultural land. That's why we were thinking, how should we do to fill the stomachs of our people? That's why our president started to think. So first of all, he has to make them to survive, but there's no way for it. So when he was worrying and thinking about this Jung Ji-young, who is the president of the Hyundai company, he says, Your Excellency, don't worry. Let's make more land. Hey, we are like surrounded by borders and ocean. We're ocean on three sides. What are you saying? But he said, no, in Sosan, let's construct a sea wall and let's make a landfill with the sea territory. So it's around 7.7 kilometers of ocean they covered. That changed the map of Korea. So even in the process of making that seawall, 7.7 kilometer seawall, the last 270 meters they faced a big difficulty. So always, if everything happens so nicely like a smooth ride on a highway, it's so good, no. But it's not like that. We always have problems. Your life is the same. In your life also, if everything always turns out well, how great is that? How can something like this happen in my life? It's so shocking. It's so difficult. Truly, I cannot help but die. I cannot help but be ruined. There are times when we cannot do anything. Everyone, even in your lives, that difficulty is there. Then when you meet this kind of difficulty, in front of the difficulty, how does the direction of your thoughts flow? That is so important. 270 meters were left, but it seemed impossible. They met this impossible situation to fill that last gap because of the pressure of the water. So everyone started pointing fingers at that Jung Ji-young. They said, because of you, we are ruined. From the beginning, this was impossible. How can we, block the ocean and make land and make fields? That's nonsense. Jung Ji-young, it's all your problem. And they start to point fingers at him. It's because of you that our land is ruined. But this Jung Ji-young, at that time, what he started to say was, in my life, all things were made in crisis. Everyone, when difficulties, problems comes to you, don't just look at the situation as it is. At that time, you have to think oppositely. Always he thought that this junction, he always thought oppositely. When unhappiness came, how should you see it? No, there's something that is happy. When despair comes, how should you see it? No, this is something very hopeful. That's why when sorrow came, no, this can become happiness. Always used to think of everything oppositely, it seems. But the people who are unhappy, when difficulties come and crises come in their heart, that despair comes to them, then I'll be despair. If sorrow comes, oh, I'm sad. If pain comes, oh, I'm in pain. If someone is torturing them, they feel tortured. If it looks impossible, it's impossible. Like this. They have a way of their thoughts. Those who have this kind of a way of thoughts, they live such miserable lives. And now it's the end. Now we're done. It's impossible. It cannot be done anymore. At that time, this person always he met so many difficulties. After those difficulties, surely blessing followed. Whenever crisis came to me, it always brought me away. There's not even once when crises have lied to me. It always brought a new way and made a new way in my life. So this person in Korea, he is the first person who started bridge construction. When you do the bridge construction, also there are difficulties you face. When you do the bridge construction after getting the contract, in the process of building the bridge, as the corona started, some industries succeeded, no. But all the restaurants, all these things closed at that time. Only the delivery system worked. So when he was doing the bridge construction, suddenly the prices started to rise a lot because other industries were affected. So at that time, as time passed, 1 year, 2 years passed, the construction started to get delayed because the prices were raising 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. As the prices started to raise, it is a crisis that they faced, like bankruptcy they reached. So when they were about to be bankrupt, what happened is he had one philosophy he had one philosophy as a businessman. If a businessman, for him, what is life? What he believed is that the customers are like God. So he said that like the customers are God, that's why I cannot disappoint them. So somehow or the other, he used to return the money to them. Even borrowing from family or whatever, somehow or the other, he used to pay back the money to them. So this person, he did the opposite. He said, I cannot give loss to the people who have trusted me. So he started to gather money from all his family members. Then all the personal money that they had, he used and he ended that bridge construction. He finished it. Now the bridge construction, after it was completed, at that time, all his family members had become beggars. They had lost all their money. It was the cold winters. So they just lived on that bridge, shivering. In his life, that was the most difficult time, he said. So at that time, what happened was, now they were all suffering and they were just shivering in the cold. At the time a rumor started to go around the world. What was that rumor? Hyundai company, if you give them any work, they will surely take responsibility till the end. That Jung Joo-yeon, if you give him any work, you will never be at a loss. Even though he ruins, but he will ruin himself. He will never give any loss to the people who trusted him and invested. So as this rumor started to spread, many jobs started to come to Hyundai. Many people started to give projects to Hyundai. From then on, Hyundai started to succeed. This Hyundai company, the Jung Joo-yeon chairman, the mindset that he had, that is what made it succeed. In my life, there were so many crises. As I did business, there were many difficulties. After that difficulty, surely there was a new opportunity that came to me. Those kind of crises, it never deceived me. Those crises, it made a new way for me. At that time, those last 270 meters, For those last 270 meters, everyone complained, everyone, though they said it's impossible. In that crisis, the idea started like just fall from heaven like that. It came a new idea. So it says that the Lord wants to meet us in the deserted land, in the wilderness, the useless land, wasteland, right? Or the wilderness where there's a wild beast. We might die anytime, we might ruin anytime. That is that situation. That situation where we cannot help but to die. It says that God wants to meet us in the wasteland. Why? Because over there, if you go over there, I will show you how I am protecting you. Let's meet in the wasteland. Let's meet in the wilderness where the animals cry. I will show you how much I take care of you. There is a rule. There is a rule that the people who succeed have. There is one rule that people who live spiritual life have. When difficulties come, when problems come, when you meet something impossible, God, He said that let us meet over there. So at that time, this person, that last 270 meters, for that 270 meters, he said, I receive wisdom from the heavens. He's saying always it's like that. When people meet some kind of a situation where they cannot help but die, they get some kind of a supernatural power, supernatural strength, it seems. Right? I always say this, but chickens, the hens, they have wings, but they don't fly. They have wings, but why can't they fly? There's just once when the chicken flies, you know when? If a dog follows after it. If the dog follows after it and it's about to die, that time it starts to, try to spread its wings and it goes on top of the roof. Apart from that, it never even spreads its wings. Human beings are like this. When we have to meet crisis or difficulties, that is when we look to God and we wait for the help of God. That's what happens. At that time, that wisdom came to him from the heavens, it seems. So in Ulsan, where the Hyundai shipbuilding industry is, from there, he brought a 322-meter oil tanker ship. Ships can float in the water, but they can also be made to sink. If you fill it with water, it sinks. That's how he completed the seawall construction. So all around the world, he made this kind of a seawall which made a lot of land to be formed where they could build fields and do agriculture. Are there people who are starving now? Not really. The reason why we were able to make that much plain land where we could do agriculture is because of Zhongjiang. The people who succeed, there is a special feature of these people. After he finishes the seawall construction, there is one quote that he said. He said, to those who do not go, there is no way. But to those who go, there are ways that don't exist which are made. The people who don't go, they have no way because it's not visible to them. But to the people who go in the front, the ways which are not there also start to get made. If you see in the Bible, what kind of a scripture is there? In Hebrews chapter 10, verse 38, the just shall live by faith. There is a people whom God hates. It says, the just shall live by faith, but if anyone draws back, my soul has no pleasure in him. Why God is not helping me? Why God is not working in me? Why only I am difficulty? Why I am having problems? I received salvation. Was it a mistake to receive salvation? It's because you are drawing back. When difficulties come or problems come, that's right. Just one step at a time, let me go forward. God has promised me that in the wilderness I will meet you, in the wasteland I will meet you, and God said that I will protect you over there. This crisis, to me, it opens a new way. Everyone over there Do not be in despair. No, it's impossible. It cannot work out. If your heart starts to flow in this way, you cannot see any way. That is why, as we live spiritual life, we were difficult. We felt like it's a big problem. Let not our heart lean in that direction. But no, if God helps, that is more than enough. That one step at a time, let's go forward. That one step at a time, when we step forward, from the heavens, wisdom starts to come. We start to see the way, and God starts to help us from then on. That's why spiritual life, it is going forward, it is not going backward. Today, like this word of God in the Bible, in verse 10, it says, Then the king of Israel sent someone to the place of which the man of God had told him. Thus he warned him, and he was watchful there, not just once or twice. It means he's always being helped, not just once or twice, right? If so, then in spiritual life, how interesting it will be, right? Problems are there, difficulties are there. But if God helps, He changes the impossible to possible. Then how interesting it is, no? Even if I have a war 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, no problem. 1,000 times also war, no problem. If God helps me, that is more than enough. So to counter attack, it was not just once or twice. Everyone in your lives. Even now, God, to you, He is working in the same way. He wants to work in the same way. When difficulties come to you, it's impossible, I cannot do it. Let your heart not flow in that direction, not in the direction of darkness. No, God, He has told us not to draw back. No, God, He said that He will surely make a new way for me. This is a rule given by the Lord. The people who, we will surely have a way. Then that difficulty never lies to you. So it'll never finish as a difficulty. God will surely change it into a blessing. That is the providence of God. That is the will of God, it seems. But why people, after they fail, they face difficulties? It is because, like Joseph, he went into the prison, and after that, he became so much in despair. Really, my life, there's never one time also when it succeeded. My older brothers, I was hated by them, I was sold, I became a slave in Egypt. And see now, Potiphar's wife, she framed me for attempting to rape her, and then I'm put in prison now. It's just too much. It's so bad to live in this kind of world. Let me just die. Just imagine he died in prison, okay? But just one step after the prison, what is there? Blessing is there, right? So that means when difficulties come, don't commit suicide, okay? When difficulties come, it means don't give up. Just after that difficulty, what is there? There is a governor waiting. However, the reason why we fear, why we don't become the governor is because, this dirty world, let's just finish it. Then of course you'll not become a governor. That's why God, no matter what difficulty or problem comes to you, the direction or the angle with which you see that difficulty or problem, you need to change it. God is giving me a new chance. When this difficulty comes to me, God, He is going to open up a new way for me. If you can have that kind of a hope, even in your lives, I believe that God will work in the same way. The people who are unhappy, when misery comes to them, they feel like it'll finish as difficulty. Why God is only giving me this difficulty? Other people, they're succeeding, they're turning out well, but I believe church, nothing is happening well. Why only I am like this? Why God hates me? In that direction, in the direction of despair, we get pulled. That's why spiritual life is so difficult. It's so tough. Pastor said this. Everyone in your hearts, if God is not working, that thought is there. Please take a rubber eraser and you rub it off, you erase it off. From that time onwards, the impossible works will start to disappear. From then on, the people of Israel, like them, not once or twice they were watchful, right? Not once or twice they were watchful, it says. Difficulties were there, but God helped. When God helped, it worked out. Everyone in your life also, God powerfully, in the same way to you also, He wants to work. God in your heart, that thought that it will not work, if you can just throw that away, then spiritual life, that one thought that God will not work, with a eraser, you should erase it. From then, spiritual life will begin. So, after you erase that, it will not work, keeping that thought, even if God works, it will not work. Don't just think that. If that one thought is erased, your company life, your family life, your spiritual life, it's not just once or twice, but every single day in your life, God is going to work powerfully. We can see that. In the land of Israel, there's only need for one prophet to be there. We do according to how he says. Then not just once or twice, right? However, there were kings who despised the prophet. That country will become ruined because they despise the servant of God. So God, in your life also, that thought that says it is impossible, if you erase that, God will work powerfully in your life. Today I will preach until here. Thank you.